on the Evermoor SMP, we have this community island, and on this island, there is not much to see yet, so I took it upon myself to add a little something to the environment, just something interesting to look at. And since we want this island to be primarily a nature-themed island, I thought, what better thing to do than a giant flower forest? We don't really do shops on the server, so instead we are just going to have little places on our community island where you can pick up extra resources. If people have excess resources, they can drop them off at a place, and someone can just pick them up whenever they need to. So it's more of like a free-for-all type thing. All that to say, this flower forest is primarily just a place where you can pick up extra flowers or dye as needed, or things of that nature. No pun intended. So that first flower I built was really just an experiment to see if I could kind of convert the inside of a flower into a building. It didn't turn out quite like I was hoping, but then again, when does anything do that? And we can't just stop with one flower. Of course, now we have to build an entire forest in this area. Now, I say an entire forest, however, it was a much smaller area than I was originally picturing or anticipating. But it was pretty resource heavy, and I didn't want to take up too much space in this island, so we're gonna keep calling it a forest even though it hardly classifies in my book. So far we have our yellow flower, which I don't know what kind of flower that is, a tulip, and now a daffodil, which might be one of my favorite flowers. I love so many flowers though, so it's very hard to choose. These flowers are turning out pretty well, considering I'm building them in survival, but if I had to change one thing, I think they just need to be taller, but I was not very good at gauging how tall I was making them as I was building them. And I was too lazy to redo it, so we'll settle with this. Since we are on a mushroom island, of course we needed to have some kind of giant mushroom in our forest. I decided though to convert my mushroom into a little house. I say little, it ended up being a little bigger than I was thinking it was going to be, but it ended up working out well because it is supposed to be the focal point of this area. Plus it was good practice to create an organic structure in survival. Whoops, looks like I did a little building off camera. I will show you the inside of the house later, but now let's go ahead and add an orchid, which is the final flower of our 4-flower forest. My orchid is technically more than one flower, but I wanted that to alliterate, so we're gonna pretend it's one. The final touches to our forest is adding tons and tons of grass sprigs everywhere, and I wanted this forest to look super dense, and the more grass I added, the more I realized this wasn't really getting the effect that I wanted. So I developed a new strategy to achieve this dense look, and that is basically to just wall off the entire area so it actually looks like it's more filled in than it actually is. The last thing to do was to work on smaller details such as the ground, which honestly should have been the first thing I did, but I was making this up as I go, and it's very much lacking in green, so of course we had to add grass everywhere. And a nice little path that goes straight up to the mushroom house. To conceal the forest, I added an additional little entrance in the front by creating a spider web that you need to pass under before the forest is revealed to you. This time lapse was a little shorter, but now that it's done, I'm going to take you on a quick tour. Good morning, Jarvis. I know this is not the thing I just built, but I came back here to show you how I've been collecting all of those resources all at Terracotta. That build wasn't extremely big, but it did take me a while because I have been having to grind for all of those resources. So in here I have this completely stocked trading hall with all the necessities and all of the block colors. Look at this. This took me forever to set up, but it was super useful for creating that forest that you just saw me build. And I just wanted to show this off because sometimes I do feel like I spent more time here than actually doing the build. So it was a lot of work, but definitely worth it. And this is our community island so far. We have this lovely portal that Cortezarino made for us, and then a giant spider over here, and that was pretty much all that existed before I made my little forest. And yes, that spider web was partially inspired by this giant spider who is guarding the forest. At least that's what I'm saying now. And then I did add my own little spider on my web too, because I feel like this web was way too small for that big guy over there. But anyway, here's the entrance to our forest. I have lovely grass everywhere, because why not? Once you enter, the first thing you see is a little doorway that takes you inside this flower, which is where we'll be storing a bunch of dyes if you need them, or flowers if you ever need them. There's going to be a whole bunch in here. Right now there's not tons because, you know, it's basically brand new, but this is a nice little area where you can come in here and just drop off a flower or pick up some dyes. We'll have to actually create a flower farm. We don't have one of those yet, but this will be very nice and handy for that purpose. And we're gonna walk outside, come around this corner, and just follow the path, and it's going to lead you up to the mushroom house. And as you can see, I tried to position it where it looked really nice as you were approaching it, and there's just tall grass everywhere, as you can see. It just looks so pretty with these shaders. Over here is a little exit if you wanted to exit out that way. There's nothing beyond that point yet, but it's there. And we can go ahead and go inside this house. There's not much to see in here, but I'll show you around. It's actually a lot bigger than you might think it would be. So in here we have this little room and this main room here. It does have maybe 3 stories to it. Let's see, this is the 2nd story. Wait, it has 3 stories plus an attic if I'm not mistaken. This is the 3rd story. We have a little fireplace in here, and then this will take you up to the attic, which is just this teeny tiny room with the chimney continuing up there and then the window at the top. So there is no furniture, as you can see, but I did go through the trouble of at least covering the inside walls so it actually looks like a house, which was kind of difficult considering I built the structure. Well, I built the organic structure first and then tried to make it look more structural inside. I don't know if that makes much sense, but that's what I tried to do. So as you can see, the area really isn't that big, but it was a lot of work, and I think it turned out okay. If I had to do it over, I would definitely make it much bigger and much more expansive where you can explore more. This isn't a really huge area, but it did take me quite a while to build, and I guess it's not bad considering it's the first time I tried doing something like this. And that concludes this video. I hope you found it inspirational. Now, I would definitely like to try this concept again, but take it much, much further, but we'll have to save that for another day. This was a good practice. Remember, I'm not the only one in this SMP. I will link to all of the other members below if you want to check out their content. I primarily do these time lapses, and I do live stream on this server in case you want to follow me on Twitch. That is where I do all my live streaming. And with all that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and I hope to see you again.